Look, I understand that you have 14 different calorie counting apps and you have a poster hanging in your kitchen that lists the calorie content of every food on the planet. But what I want to help you understand in this video is that there's a reason that you're not getting the results that you're looking for when you're trying to count your calories and you're trying to burn more calories than you consume. Now, it's true that if a person's body is operating optimally and everything is working perfectly, then this calorie counting method really could bring about some great results. The problem is that most people who are trying to lose weight don't have their body operating optimally. And to look at this in a way like your body is operating the same way that a petri dish is working in a lab is going to create a lot of frustration for you. So one of the biggest benefits of actually counting calories is just to become conscious of everything that you're shoving down your gullet. I have clients all the time that when they food journal what they're actually eating, they're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that I was eating 7 Zagnut bars in a day. That's probably not optimal. Yeah, that's probably not optimal. So what you're going to understand in this video, once you understand the science of what you're trying to do, you're going to see the ridiculousness, but you're also going to understand the waste of time, effort, and emotions that are going into trying to count your calories. You don't want to miss this.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So I've been able to help clients lose more than 230 pounds in a year, and with all the clients that I've worked with for over a decade, I've never had any weight loss client count their calories. The only people that I have count calories is when I feel like they're probably not getting enough food. And for a lot of people, when they're not eating enough, that can restrict weight loss. But that's the only reason I ever have somebody count their calories. Do you know how they even started determining how calories are in their food? They determined it by, they would put this food in what's called a bomb colorimeter, and they would like burn the food and then see how the temperature raised in the water outside of that chamber. So where in the body is there a flame that's going to burn our food? Like some people are very flamboyant, but that's really not the same thing. So the whole concept is so far from human physiology that it's almost a joke. And now they basically determine calories by using math. They just assign a certain number of calories to each type of food gram. Like a carbohydrate, 1 gram is 4 calories, a fat gram is 9 calories, the protein is 4 calories, and they're just going to kind of use math. And did you know that the manufacturers only have to be accurate to 20%? That means that a calorie that you're looking at the package like this has 150 calories per serving in it. Well, it might only have 120 calories, or it might have 180 calories. That means that you're trying to count your calories to the accuracy of a NASA mission, and the manufacturers are trying to count these same calories to the accuracy of a 2.5-year-old's drawing of a T-Rex. That's the accuracy that your calorie counting methods are too. So that's a T-Rex. And that was like her best try out of 7. So you can kind of see it right there. It's like roar. And what we really need to understand is that the reality is that there is no diet that is right for every person because we all process foods differently. If a person doesn't have the ability to break down protein or process carbohydrates or emulsify their dietary fats, they're not going to process that food according to the number of calories that were found within that food in a laboratory. Instead of it really being about the number of calories that are in the food and the number of calories that you're burning, it's really about what those food choices are telling your body to do with that food. So a calorie is a measurement of how much energy is within that food or really within anything. So a log has calories, it has energy in that log, and if you burn that log, it will put off energy. But if you were to eat a log, how much energy do you think you would get out of that log? I'm going to let you know now, it's not going to be a whole lot. So to take this to an extreme, let's look at a type 2 diabetic. So a person is a type 2 diabetic because their body is not processing the glucose in the bloodstream correctly. They have become insulin resistant, and that means that insulin was so high for so long that the body's like, hey, I'm tired of insulin screaming at me, I'm not going to listen to it anymore. So that person becomes insulin resistant. Now the insulin is no longer sweeping that glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells so that it can be used for energy. So when that happens, that glucose rises. So a lot of people counting calories are going to look at, hey, a rice cake, that's a low-calorie food. I'm going to lose weight by eating this rice cake. But if a person is insulin resistant, that rice cake contains a lot of carbohydrates. So they're not going to process the carbohydrates in that rice cake into fuel because the body's not listening to insulin. It can't sweep it into the cells so that it can be used correctly. And that means the insulin is going to go higher to try to process that carbohydrate. The body's like, hey, there's still sugar in the bloodstream. Let's make more insulin. Let's make it happen. And so the body makes more insulin. So the problem is that high insulin levels signal the body to store more energy as fat. So this person is eating a low-calorie rice cake to try to lose weight, but because their body doesn't have the ability to process the carbohydrates in that rice cake, instead of making them lose weight, it's signaling the body to store more as fat. And don't say, well, I'm not a type 2 diabetic, so this isn't a problem for me. Most people should be able to process glucose for fuel and fat for fuel, but the reality is that some people lean more towards burning glucose much better than fat, and some people burn fat much better than glucose. It's about understanding where your body chemistry is. Now, where the confusion comes in is that a lot of people process carbohydrates very efficiently. Their insulin is working very efficiently. So to process that same amount of carbohydrates, they may only need to produce a very small amount of insulin. So that means that their insulin is staying low. So as long as insulin is low, that's sending the signal to the body of, hey, why don't we burn some of this stored fat for fuel, and then the person can lose weight. So you can see that's wildly different results of the same food, the same calories going into different people, creating very different results because of their unique bioindividuality. Let's look at the other side of this. What about when someone's using a ketogenic diet? When someone's properly using a ketogenic diet and they have the ability to process that ketogenic diet correctly, well, now they're bringing in a lot more fat. Fat grams have more calories in them. There's 9 calories per gram of fat. That's more than carbohydrates or protein. So this person is bringing in a higher calorie food, yet because the way their body is processing fats, those higher amounts of fats are actually signaling the body of, hey, let's not just burn this fat that's coming in, let's burn a whole bunch of stored fat too. And that's going to accelerate the person's weight loss. So this person is consuming more calories than someone who might not be using a ketogenic diet. They might not be consuming a lot of fat, but they're actually losing more weight. And we haven't even gotten into the fact that can the person digest this food? If a person's dealing with any digestive symptoms like burping or bloating or constipation or diarrhea or acid reflux or nausea or even skin or acne type issues, or maybe the food just kind of sits there like a rock in their stomach for hours, any of those symptoms are a really strong indication that a person does not have the ability to break down their food correctly. So we're looking at this ketogenic diet and, oh man, my friend lost a whole bunch of weight doing that, I'm gonna do that. But it's very common for a person's bile not to be flowing correctly. There's a lot of things in our world that will thicken up that bile so it won't flow, and we use bile to emulsify or break down our dietary fats. So if someone doesn't have their bile flowing and they're going to do a ketogenic diet, well, now these fats with these fat calories are going to come into the system. They can't break them down so that the body can use them. So instead, these dietary fats become rancid and toxic, and they become a burden to the body. So those fat calories are not turned into the fuel according to the number of calories that are within that food in the laboratory. Instead of becoming fuel, they become a burden, and the body's like, well, I don't know what to do with this. Hey, I can shove some of these toxins into fat cells. And then the fat cells expand with toxins, and then our pants don't fit. So you can see that the same diet that was helping one person lose a whole bunch of weight, when this person can't digest fats correctly, well, they're just gaining weight. And they also don't have any fuel to have any energy, and now they kind of bonk and they're miserable and they hate everybody and they're yelling at the mailman because they don't like the shorts that he's wearing. Let's say that you even could digest the foods. Well, everybody's trying to create this deficit so that the body's like, oh, I ran out of energy, so I'm going to burn stored energy, and then they burn that stored fat. Well, for a lot of people that are not digesting their food and pulling all the minerals out of that food, they don't have enough resources in the body for the body to function correctly. So when they do create this deficit, They're creating stress for the body. This deficit is not telling the body, hey, let's just burn some stored fat. If insulin is too high for the body to access that stored fat, that backup fuel source is not an option for the body. So now the body is going to raise these stress hormones to say, hey, I'm going to raise these stress hormones just to get the body to function the way that I need it to function. And these stress hormones can send a signal to store more as fat. These stress hormones can also thicken up the bile so it won't flow correctly, and now the person's not burning their fat correctly. They're not digesting their fat so that those fats can be used as fuel. So this deficit that you're trying to create can create a lot more trouble than good for a lot of people. And I know that this counting calories and this burning more than you're consuming has really been smashed into your head for years and decades. I know it's hard to let go of, but just know this. One of us is right. Either I'm right and there's hope for you, or your calorie counting app is right and you're going to be kind of stuck with the weight that you are or greater. It's really more about working with your body chemistry instead of against it. It's more about understanding what foods can I digest correctly, what foods is my body processing correctly, and it's less about just eating processed rice cakes because my calorie app said it was a good idea. What you really want to do is look at your unique body chemistry to get an idea of how you're processing foods. And my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, walks you through how to do simple self-tests that you can do at home with tools that you can pick up at a pharmacy or a health food store. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below so you can get the whole thing totally for free. And chapters 3 and 4 even walk you through figuring out, are there aspects of digestion that are not working correctly for me? And are there steps that I can take so that I can process fats correctly, so that I can break down proteins correctly, so that my body can use these carbohydrates for fuel? Once you understand those things and you can correct any malfunctions, now you open up the door to work with your body and help your body lose weight a whole lot easier. If you want to understand this a little bit more, I made this great video that was a lot of fun that kind of walked through 8 very popular diets and helped you understand why does this diet help one person lose weight, but another person it causes them to gain weight. So what I want you to do right now is jump over and watch our video on why these 8 diets fail for some, and that's going to give you even more insights into why this calorie counting stuff is a whole bunch of waste of time. I can't wait to hear about your results.